I'll be able to ask them later. Kiro, I have seen you've posted your question several times. Nimeiona kwa hivyo sijakataa kumuuliza. But before I allow Missy to come in, I just wanted also you guys to talk about the scholarship opportunities and what areas do we expect our students to find scholarships? Do we have scholarships in the STEM area or whatever? I just wanted you to mention anything about scholarship, and then Missy, you can take it.
Yeah, I think, as you know, immigration is broad. For us not to be everywhere, for us to be more structured, we thought that we should come up with common questions that we expect people to ask, as well as to be able to address them, so that in that way, what we will miss out in these questions, then people can post those questions that way. I think it will be more beneficial because in terms of time, it will be more leading questions to answers, so that we can be of help during this session. If you allow us to ask those questions, to go with those questions, and then they will try to answer as much as they can, and then whatever question that we miss, then you guys can pull it up and then we can answer them. Is that okay with you guys?
Yeah, that sounds good. It's going to save us time.
Perfect.
But also just to mention here, I really had this question from somebody who wanted to know about scholarships, like I said, and what areas you expect scholarships, and then also just briefly in your notes, if you can slip in anything to do with the apprenticeship, and if we have those
Yeah,
opportunities there, and then at least you can take it from there.
absolutely.
Yeah. So
Absolutely, and
go
it's
ahead.
going to be answered among the questions that we've selected. It's going to be among those questions. So I will ask the questions, and they will try to answer. This way, we will. I will play the audience, and they will answer the questions. So this way, we move a little faster. So we just start with the basic questions, like who processes the visa applications to Canada. Maybe Council, you can touch that, and also answer the question for what are the requirements to migrate to Canada. And that being said, talk about the age limit. This way we can answer 3 questions at a go.
Uh, Thank you again. I know, Richie, very quickly in terms of scholarship, it depends. Each institution that of learning have different scholarships for different programs. We may not necessarily be very specific about what scholarships are available for what institution that maybe the applicants may want to venture into looking for admission. So they are quite varied in terms of because you see, like you or me or another institution may want to say we want to offer a scholarship for a certain group of certain discipline. So I think that we would advise the students or those who want to pursue that to be able to check what are available scholarship. There are always scholarship for international students. But because there are few and there are many students, so the competition also, and because the competition is very high, and sometimes you may find that because there are very many people applying, you may not be able to benefit, because then they may not be available for everybody. But these colleges, institutions, universities, and even those who want to do masters, those who want to do undergrad, those who want to do these diploma courses, they do have scholarships. So, and of course, when you go to the website of all these colleges and community colleges that we have mentioned, then you realize that what are the available scholarship. There's scholarship for the month of September, there's scholarship for the month of January, and of course, there's scholarship for the month of May. Maybe I will leave it at that without being very specific. I will move on to the question that was asked, that who processes applications for people who want to come to Canada. Again, Canada admits not less than every year, at least Canada admits not less than 340,000 new immigrants. Canada is one of the countries that is very ambitious in terms of allowing immigrants to migrate. Because one thing I want to tell you, Canada in terms of the land size is bigger than the US. But our population in Canada is around
47 million.
in fact, around 40 million. And you can imagine this land wants a lot of people, and there are provinces, there are other regions that we do not have people at all. So we'll discuss about what are the incentives that most of these regions are offering out there for immigrants so that people can migrate. Because even Canadians, we are more in Ontario than in other provinces. So you realize that there's still a lot of areas where most people are needed, but then you need to understand how you want to come. So what we call IRCC, which is Migration, Refugee, and Citizenship Canada, has the mandate to be able to process applications for people who want to migrate to Canada. The only exception is that we do have one of the provinces that exclusively has been given the mandate to admit immigrants on their own terms, and that is the province of Quebec. Quebec is a French-speaking province, and particularly for our viewers, those who speak French, they may have a benefit to be able to, because they have their unique assessment process where you apply and then the province actually decides on who goes there, and predominantly they are looking for people who are French speakers. Though Canada is bilingual, you speak French or speak English. They are both languages that are used, and they are both official languages. So they do process that, and of course, we may not be able to exhaust the many options and the many available opportunities that are there. There are different ways that people can come to Canada, but we are just only scratching the surface. So obviously, we'll hope that we'll get an opportunity again to be able to discuss more. But what I'm saying is that there are many ways that you can come. And very quickly, in terms of age, before I go, in terms of age, the younger you come to Canada, the better. Because Canada is looking for young people. When you come at a very advanced age, the struggle is that Canada may feel that how much more are you going to benefit in terms of your value addition. So the age of 25 to 35 is more. I mean, I'm saying that there is no age limit for people who are coming here. People can come of different ages. But I'm saying the younger you make a decision to come, the better. And that's why we are encouraging young people to come. Because even in terms of the federal skilled worker program, because you're coming in the form of you earn points because it's a points form, and one of the areas that you score, and most people score very highly, is on the aspect of age. Of course, in terms of education, in terms of your transferable skills, in terms of your proficiency in your health, in your reading, in your speaking, in your writing, and in terms of the assessment of your academic credentials through World Education Services. So I'm just wrapping the service because I'm trying to charge because of time, but I can tell you that there are many, many, many options that are available. One of the options that you can get to come to Canada is what you call Express Entry Program. Under the Express Entry Program, we have 3 areas that people can come in. One is what you call Federal Skilled Worker Program. Under the Federal Skilled Worker Program is where people come who are professionals who have trained and worked and have experience from other jurisdictions. And that's why it's called skilled. This is looking for people who have academic qualifications. And the one thing I want to advise and encourage our viewers is that do masters, because people who have undergrads and want to migrate to Canada, everybody now these days has an undergrad degree. So if you have to compete, because if you go to any village now in Kenya, almost every home has a degree. So now, how can you be different? So the way you can be different is by rising up, by doing a master's program. I know in Kenya now, there are universities that are offering masters for 1 year or 2 years. In Canada, masters is 1 year. But if you do masters, you can compete better for under what you call the Federal Skilled Worker Program, as opposed to when you are coming in under the undergrad. One thing I want to tell you, if you want to come under the Federal Skilled Worker Program, if you have a spouse, both of you must have your credentials assessed. Both of you must do the house, because then you will supplement one another. But when we do that, we will be able to assess and see who will be the principal applicant, the one who is likely to score more points. Then we will assess under that. The other area is what you call the Federal Skill Trades Program. You know, a lot of people think that when you do welding, you do machinery, you do all these kind of trades, people think that you have no value in Canada. Now, under that, also is one of the segments within the Federal Skilled Worker Program under the trades where people can come. In fact, there's a time in one of the provinces in Alberta where they were looking for welders seriously, and they couldn't get enough people to come in as welders. Canada is building a lot of houses, and they need people who are trained in this area of architectural and all that. So that's also one area that a lot of people would still come here. Under the Express Entry program, I have what you call the Canada Experience class. I talked about the Canada Experience class. This is more beneficial to international students who come here and study, and they gain the in Canada Experience class by working here for 1 year. Why you are given a postgraduate open work permit for 3 years is because by the time you finish working for 1 year, you have 2 years left for you to submit an application without running out of status. Or if you miss getting employment, then you do have enough, at least 2 years, to run around and find employment so that you are able to submit your application and be invited to apply to become a permanent resident before you lose your status. Because if you lose your status, you will be required to travel out of the country, or you apply back to go to school, which will be a bit an additional expense on your side. And then, if I can come down, we do have another option of what you call the family class sponsorship. People who have families here in Canada can sponsor families from outside. For example, if one of you is able to travel to Canada and is able to get their status, then they can now apply to sponsor their family, their wife, their spouse, or their children. We do have also, people can come here on a work permit, what you call the LMIA, which is the Labor Impact Market Assessment. This is where an employer can give you employment. But what I want to tell you is, in terms of employment, I remember I saw in Kenya where Matiang'i was running around and asking most of the Asians, why are Kenyans giving employment, which is basically any local person can do? Equally in Canada, Canadian government protects employment for their own people. So when you come and you want to apply for an open work permit, Canada must be able to assess and see what value, or is this job not being able to be done by anybody in Canada? Because if, for example, it's a job of general labor or sweeping, which anybody can sweep, then the immigration may ask, for example, they may ask us, JM Law, what is the reason why you are bringing somebody from outside for just duties and responsibility that can be done by somebody locally? So that's why we say that when you look for a work permit, we are looking for people who have unique skills so that we can be able to convince immigration that why we are applying for the labor market impact assessment is because this person has unique qualifications. We do have what you call the provincial nominee programs. Provincial nominee programs are predominantly programs that are unique from different provinces, where these provinces are trying to encourage and offer opportunities for immigrants to migrate to those provinces because they want people to pay taxes, they want people to build those provinces, and they encourage, so those are unique programs. You know, I want also to say that we do have what you call the Temporary Foreign Workers Program. Temporary Foreign Workers Program are programs that are designed to help people, particularly farmers, people who are working in the farms. A lot of Canadians don't want to do certain jobs, like, you know, working at the farm, picking berries and, you know, taking care of the animals. So now, because of that unique responsibility, farmers are allowed to hire people from outside to come and work in the farms under what we call the Temporary Foreign Workers Program. And in that respect, the people come, but what they get is what you call the employer-specific work permit. Employer-specific work permits are work permits that where you cannot work for another employer other than this person that has processed your work permit. But we do have also open work permits where you can work for any employer that does not have any limits. So I think maybe if I'm not touched on other areas, then I'll be glad to be able to expand on that.
Council, you could also, I think you would have also mentioned about the national occupation classification. in relation to what you added, that when you are considering to hire a foreign worker, that there's job classification. Maybe you would touch on that, and also nannies as well. As Peter is preparing to talk about humanitarian and compassionate applications, and also Peter, you can tell us as well what is it easy to migrate to Canada? Who is considered to be called a permanent resident or Canadian permanent resident, or different types of status in Canada? So that way we'll be moving. And I think we're almost covering all the areas that we wanted to talk about. But let me give you again a preview of the options of migrating to Canada. We have express entry, family, class, sponsorship, which council you have talked about, LMI, work visa, and the provincial nominee, which you have spoken about actually. I think you are going to talk about the provincial nominee, if I'm not wrong. And Council Nyamiaka, could you also talk about humanitarian and compassionate applications and who qualifies for such applications? And I think Tony Minor, we have talked about family class sponsorship, and I think that's what you are referencing. I think we've covered that. Council.
Remind me, what was the area? What was the question?
I think you were going to talk about PNP,
yeah.
the provincial migration.
Yeah. So basically, I said that the provincial nominee programs. I talked about the federal skill work. I mean, the federal programs where immigration is federal. Which basically federal means that we do have a federal government, and we have what you call a provincial government that are governed by the premiers, and the federal government is headed by the prime minister. You see, just like what we have in Kenya now with the county government, where we do have governors and who basically now they're devolved functions in most of those counties. So now the premiers in most of these, when I talked about the federal skilled worker program that is managed by the federal government, they also immigration encourages these premiers from the respective provinces to also have the opportunity to improve and put out incentives to encourage immigrants, even those who are within Canada that have status, that to relocate and be able to move to those provinces. But again, even when that is the position, they have also had the opportunity to encourage people from outside to be able to come in under this, what we call the provincial nominee programs. Now, one of the things that I want to tell you is that for the provincial, there are areas where you can apply directly to the provinces, but when you apply to under the federal skilled worker program, when you submit an application, it goes to the pool. There's a pool of those applications. So what happens is that that pool, employers have a link. They are allowed to access that pool to be able to see whether they can be able to access employees who have specific unique skills that these employers are looking for. Also, the provincials are also allowed. The provinces actually are also allowed to have access to the pool, which basically they can easily identify certain skills from within the pool and invite them to apply to become permanent residents. But then also provinces have their unique arrangements where they can be allowed to apply directly to those provinces and submit your applications. But one thing I want to tell you, if you apply to these provincial, under the provincial nominee programs, the requirement is that you must be able to live in that province, or you must migrate to that province. Well, when you become a permanent resident, you are not limited to live anywhere because you have a right of movement. Any province confining you to live in a certain province will be deemed to infringe your right of movement, but at least you're required to be able to move to those provinces. Sometimes, one of the things that I did not mention, for those who have family members in Canada, because I say that most of these federal programs or these skilled worker programs, they are in a points form. So for those who are family members, if you have a brother, you have a sister here, you get additional 15 points. One of the reasons why you get these points is that, in Kenya, if you have a family member, and why should a family member enable you to get more points? Because that is deemed to be, but in Canada, because they feel that if you do have a family member, it's very easy for you to settle, as opposed to when you come and you're new and it takes longer for you to settle down, as opposed to when you have a family member. So, so the provincial nominee programs, we talk about the Alberta Immigrant Nominee Program. We don't have the British Columbia, Manitoba, Newfoundland, and Labrador. We have what you call New Brunswick. We have Nova Scotia. We have Northwest Territories. We have Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program. We have Prince Edward. We have Quebec Skilled. And I talked about Quebec. I said this is actually a very unique province that is given very many privileges, including them allowed to decide on who goes to their province. We have Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program, and we have Yukon Nominee Program. So these programs are designed to give provinces opportunities to invite immigrants to relocate to these provinces because they want to increase their population, they want to increase people to pay taxes, they want people to build their economies. So, but then again, they also have certain requirements that you must meet.
Yeah, I think Joshua, you've exhaustively talked about that. I don't know, Missy, there's something else you wanted addressed. And me. Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Let me
yeah,
let me.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. There are a few things that I just wanted to, and I see also because I'm also reading comments. I think the questions on a work specific a work permit that is specific. Let me put a little bit of light on that. There, for example, if you are an international student, you have a limit of 20 hours a week, but you might be eligible to work for any other employer or work within the institution that you are in, but you cannot exceed 20 hours a week. When you have an open work permit, you can work for any employer and you can work up to, I think, 44 hours, 40 to 44 hours, but you can work for any employer. I think Council Joshua talked about work specific employers. For example, I think if you have been hired as a nanny, for example, you're limited to work to that specific employer, even though you might work more hours. So I think there's someone unanisumbua alikuwa anataka kujua hiyo. Also something that that was asked, I think it's important that we address it now. The other thing is whether Canada recognizes international or British credentials from British institutions. I think there is a process of evaluation, and that process, all of us go through it. You can go get your evaluation through World Education Service, and it can be accepted by any institution in Canada. Now, there's an issue that I wanted Council Joshua to specifically talk about. You asked about apprenticeship. I don't know in what context, Makiadi, you wanted to ask whether Kenyans can benefit from this a provision that is there within the Canadian government, or I don't know, maybe you need to shed light so that he can be able to address that.
Yeah, thank you, Missy. I think I have a friend who went to Germany, and I thought maybe the same program. Germany has programs whereby they admit students under apprenticeship program, mostly in the manufacturing and engineering sectors, and then you are able to be trained for about 2.5 years, and then after completion of this training, you are absorbed into the market, into the job market in that country. So I don't know if Canada has such kind of arrangements whereby they can, absorb people from Kenya, then train them, and then give them jobs.
Council, you want to speak on that?
Yes. We do not have such a program, and that's why we do have the route. You see, I said one of the benefits Canada that encourages people who come here to study is basically after they finish, they are able to get an open work permit and then be able to gain that experience and submit the application to become permanent resident. We do not have that provision. That's why I say that different countries have different programs to support and encourage those that move there to be able to settle down, because maybe that's a very unique area that they are looking for people and they're offering. For example, let me tell you something. We had, I have not mentioned about people coming here and claim for asylum, because that's also another route where people come on a visitor's visa and they come to visit and they decide not to go back. Or maybe because they have challenges back home or they are facing persecution and they feel that they are going back would endanger their lives. Now, when those people, we had quite a number of people that came here and they sought for protection, and some of them were our clients. But what happened is that when COVID hit, a lot of them were working in the healthcare sector as personal support workers, and they rendered tremendous support to when Canada was struggling with this pandemic. Now, the Minister for Immigration, in recognition of this external service to the Canadian society, decided to give them papers under what you call the pathway, under the healthcare pathway. And a lot of them had to withdraw their refugee claims for them to become permanent residents. And, that was a very unique way of rewarding or actually recognizing and appreciating this group. So just like the way I was just speaking about that in relation to what you said in Germany. Now, we do have also other areas where people become permanent residents. Our office is dealing with a lot of I don't like calling it refugee, but asylum seekers, where we are dealing with and there's a route, there's a process that we have to go through. We have to prepare, why you cannot live in Kenya and be safe, why are you seeking for protection here, and what are the evidences that you have that will support your arguments, and in terms of your credibility, in terms of your consistency, whether you sought state protection, whether you went to the police when you were in Kenya, if you did not go to the police, why? If you went to the police, what protection did you get? In terms of IFA, what you call internal flight or alternative, did you go to Mombasa? Did you go to Kisumu? Or we are suggesting that you live in Kisumu. What problems do you face? Because if your problem was in Nairobi. So there are a lot of women, and again, what we are saying, that we are not, it's not possible for us to be able to discuss in detail a lot of areas that, and a lot of opportunities as well. But we want to say that this was the first opportunity we've got. We wanted to be able to introduce that there are opportunities here, that there are a lot of many opportunities that people can come and live here, because we are a testament. In fact, of recent, around the last 3 years, let me say if I'm not wrong, we have had quite a lot of Kenyans coming here, and some of them are here. So
beginning 2018.
From 2018, we have had quite a lot of, in fact, Canada, a lot of people did not know about it, but we have had quite a lot of people coming in, and we have been very supportive. We have helped them to settle down. We have guided them. We have given them all the legal support they need. And this is the beauty of having a a law office that basically understands where you come from, that understands the challenges that you experience every day, that understands your journey, even as much as we may not know much, but we do understand our people. We understand the challenges. We understand they can still be able to confide in us and be sure that we will be able to listen and understand their problems. But ultimately, as I conclude, what I wanted to say is, I know for the longest time, people have known Canada with Miguna. I know there are still other Kenyan lawyers. There are still other Kenyan lawyers here who are practicing apart from our law office, who are equally offering similar services. And I know to a large extent people think like maybe Miguna is the only lawyer in Canada, but we do have quite a lot of lawyers here that are providing this extraordinary service to our people. Of course, serving the community, but at the same time providing this service to our people when they're here and when they need it.
Council, can I have Peter? Peter, if you can talk briefly. We are just left with a few items here, and then we are done. So, Peter, maybe you can speak about humanitarian and compassionate, as Joshua, you come back and also talk about Group 5, the 5G applications as well. And Council Joshua, you can talk about Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program. I think you did mention about it, but you didn't give an elaborate information about it. So, Council Peter.
Thank you very much. HNC simply means humanitarian and compassionate application. Now, what we're talking about are various methods of applying to become a permanent resident in Canada. All those other methods where my colleagues have talked about all lead to one thing, that is a permanent resident card. Now, HNC, that's humanitarian application, humanitarian and compassionate grounds are covered under Section 25 of the Immigration Refugee Protection Act, which is actually the law that governs immigration to this country. Now, under this HNC application program, you apply to remain in Canada under what we call the HNC. Now, there are conditions for you to be allowed to apply from within Canada. So HNC is normally an application that you do from within Canada. And to be allowed to apply for PR, for permanent resident status from within Canada, there's about 1 year. Okay, I should have said, my colleague Joshua talked about the refugee application route. 15%, about 15% of the immigrants in this country come through the refugee, what we call a refugee class. Now, once they have filed the refugee claim, and if their refugee claim has not succeeded, or when they are denied refugee status, then they have an opportunity to apply for refugee for the permanent residence status through the HNC program. But there's a 1 year bar. You cannot apply for HNC before 1 year has elapsed between the time that the decision came and the time you apply. So 1 year must elapse before you apply under the HNC program. Now, but there are exceptions. You can do that if you have a Canadian child under what we call the best interest of the Canadian child. You can apply for HNC for humanitarian and compassionate grounds for PR in Canada. Alternatively, if you have a medical condition that needs a lot of some advanced treatment that may not be available in your own country, you can apply under the HNC plus. So basically, that's what is covered under the HNC plus. And I think, Misa, you talked about who is a PR. Now, all these methods we have talked about all lead into one thing called a permanent resident card, PR card. So all these methods that we have talked about all result in the granting of a permanent resident card to the applicant before you become a citizen. I don't think there's anything else I need to add about the HNC application. Let me talk briefly about the. Sorry, Lisa.
Yeah, go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, briefly about the Group 5. Group 5 simply means that 5 people come together to sponsor a family in a third country. I'll give an example. If there's an immigrant from say Afghanistan, and maybe who has gone to a third country, Tajikistan, for instance. So five members in Canada, most likely, of course, they are family members of that particular person or of that particular family. They come together and raise funds, and these funds are used to settle the members of that family. So you have to, the money must be set aside for you to be able to sponsor that family into this country. So 5 members, that's why it's called a group 5. 5 members of a family, of family members and friends to sponsor some relatives who they want to come and join them in this country.
I can add very quickly on what Peter said. Yeah. I can add very quickly on what Peter said.
Joshua, could you also actually, I think our viewers can benefit if you also talk a little bit of Section 96. I think Section 96 and Section 97 of Immigration and Refugee Act. I think it would be of benefit if you also mention it.
Let me just one moment. I just want to say, who is a permanent resident? A permanent resident is a person who is allowed to be in this country before they become a Canadian citizen. Now, what privileges or what rights does a PR permanent resident possess in this country? You basically have every right or every privilege that a Canadian citizen enjoys, except only one thing, that is voting. So that's the only difference between a citizen and a permanent resident in Canada. And of course, again, just one more thing. Unfortunately, if one is involved in a criminal offense while they're still a permanent resident, they can be deported into their own country, which of course does not apply to a citizen. If you're a citizen, we normally say a Canadian citizen is a citizen, is a citizen. Even if you're involved in a crime, of course, you cannot be sent out of this country. But as a PR, as a permanent resident, you can be deported to your own country. If you commit a crime that is punishable with the 6 months, imprisonment, minimum 6 months imprisonment. So that's a danger that a permanent resident runs. Thank you.
Let me give Julie an opportunity also. I think she has a question for you, and then we can move on.
Yeah, I have a question, Mr. Makori. You talked about temporary work permit or temporary visa for farmers and all those kind of people. Now, what are the requirements for someone to get that visa? Now, I know one of them will be a job offer. So maybe you can also give us a site where people can apply for those jobs. I'm looking at a situation where maybe a number of people who are watching in Kenya may not be able to raise a bank statement, or maybe when it comes to those, you talked about provincial nominee express entry. I think they face challenges in terms of sometimes it has to do with experience or qualification. It also has to do with maybe the IELTS scores. Yeah, and I've seen that the express entry, like it takes time. Some people even take for 3 years before they get a response of what happened. But you talked about a good visa, temporary work permit, like those people who work as farmers. I think that's a good route to follow. But how do people get these jobs? I mean, what if you are talking to somebody? What would you want him to do? I mean, first thing first. Alafu afanyaji, then what next?
Okay, thank you, Chiria. When I talked about the temporary, and again, I think I did mention that there is a clip we did from our office where we extensively discussed about the temporary foreign workers program. And again, this is an area where a lot of people from Africa have never benefited, because most of these temporary foreign workers are coming from the Caribbean, from Jamaica, from St. Vincent, and most of the countries even from South America and all that. Why is it that a lot of people, particularly even from Kenya, that have never benefited? Because either they do not know or they do not have the information. Now, temporary foreign workers, as I say, unfortunately, when it's cold, a lot of animals are not out, or a lot of farmers are not farming, because in winter, it's a bit cold. But we do have still farmers who have maybe they are still rearing of their animals still within the the arrangements they have where they have sheltered the animals from the cold, and they still need to be taken care of. Now, what happens is that we need to identify who wants to hire, because there are many farmers who are still putting out adverts or applications, but they are looking for people to work in their farms, because essentially this is an area where you don't need any qualifications, because you're going to work in the farm. And here you need to be trained on how to operate these machines, because unlike back home, mahali kila mtu analima, hapa even farming still there's quite technology. So which basically you can learn on the ground and on a job training. Now, what you do is we have these farmers that I say that are allowed by the government to be able to bring people from outside. What we do is we liaise with some of these farmers who are looking for people, because personally now as we speak, I do have almost 5 people now who are working in most of this arrangement that I know, that I talk to every day. And some of them we had made arrangements for them to be hired. We know some of these employers who are looking for people, that you can link them to people who have that interest. Sometimes even when they advertise, they advertise on their sites, but the benefit can be more when we know those who are looking for these employers, who are looking for these employees, and then we can link them if there are people who are interested. I have posted our website, which is www.jmlawoffice.ca. That's our website. If you go to the website, you will have a link which says book a consultation. When you book if you send that information, it will come straight to our email, to our official email, and then we'll be able to reach out to you, leave your phone number and your details for those who are interested in specific areas, and then we can have a more personalized and a structured way of assisting, rather than as discussing, because this is more general information, and particularly people may have very specific areas that they want help.
Okay, Asante. Another thing I wanted to just to note, maybe you could add on this. I realized that Kenyans can also immigrate through studying. You talked about going to community colleges, that is postgraduate work permit. So, Makedi, I got the site. I'm going to post it on the site where people can search for the colleges that provide. I just looked it up. Mr. can confirm that provide postgraduate work permit. Like if you study for only 2 years, then you can proceed to work, and then from there you can get permanent residence. So Makedi, my take is from Mr. Makori's information. I think the temporary work permit is one of the easiest way of relocating. I don't think, even if you are a teacher or you are a what, your plan number 1 is to get to Canada, right, Mise? Then
Correct.
work for some farmer. Then after that, when you get your PR, you quit. You go do what you want to do. So
Absolutely.
if you consult Mise and Mr. Makori and you get some somebody to hire you, and your objective should be to cross the Atlantic Ocean and land in Canada. And once you land there, you use Mr. Makori is saying they use machinery. You don't gonna use your djembe or machete to work. You're gonna use machinery to work. So you get your job, you earn some cash for your children, you take them to school, and then you also you get your PR and you quit that farming thing, you do something else. The other thing Mr. Makori and I think Mr. talked about is a postgraduate work permit. Now, even if you have children, I think this one can work for those who have children who are going to college. I was looking up the fee. There is this college I just looked up now. I found a college called Holland College. They have a course for early childhood care and education, which is a term is not more than is less than 400,000, is less than the US cash here, less than 400,000 Kenya shillings. The whole thing is going to about less than $1 million Kenya shillings if I translate to Kenya shillings. So if you can raise some cash, you can sell some property in Kenya and just let your kid cross here and get the Holland has postgraduate. I looked it up. Postgraduate work permit. So if you get your child to such colleges, I think their life will never be the same. Hayo ni maoni yangu. Asante Makiadi.
Yeah. So To wrap it up, Council, I really wanted you to talk about Section 96, just a little bit, Section 96 and Section 97. I know you talked about IFA, and all that, state protection and all that, but at least I wanted you to talk about Section 96 and Section 97, primarily because people will know. I mean, again, there are details as mentioned that hatuwezi tukasema huku kila kitu, lakini section 96, section 97 inaweza kupatia uondo wa kuingia huku. Alafu also Canada, kama sisi tunaishi huko, wewe baridi ni ya nini unaogopa Brian? Sisi hapa, in fact you can dress for cold, huwezi dress for summer wakati jua ni kali sana. Baridi mtachuana nayo baadaye. So Council, Section 96, Section 97, and then as you wind up, I know you are talked about. We have actually exhausted the areas that we wanted to talk about, and also just to mention that for those who are going to school, there are colleges and universities that actually don't ask for admission fee, which is it's free. So if you look it up, you will get some colleges and universities. Some colleges will charge about $65. Some will charge $120. Some are free. So we here in Ontario, we have a saying that says Ontario is yours to discover. So there are many opportunities. It is for you to discover those opportunities. So go use Google as your friend. Most of these questions you can be answered if you have interest. Where you put your mind and thoughts and everything, you will always get something. So Council, whenever you are ready to talk about that, please do so that we can now move to a session where we can have people to ask those questions that we have not addressed, so that we can have a bit of 10-15 minutes before we leave.
Thank you. There's one area that I didn't discuss about the Canadian investor immigration, because there are people immigrate to Canada as investors.
Sure.
Investors, I know najua watu wetu wanataka kukuja bila kuwa na being investors. Sasa ndio hiyo I kind of intentionally decided to leave it out, because tutajaribu kukuja hapa kutafuta pesa, si kuleta pesa hapa. So I didn't intentionally want to discuss about that. But again, with respect to the other areas where Miss is asking me to discuss about Section 96 and Section 97 of the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act. With respect, that's more on areas of when people come and seek for protection, there must be an assessment whether or not these people fall in certain categories that may be able to benefit from any protection. One, you see, Section 96 actually provides that when a person comes to seek for protection in Canada, that their claim must follow within certain provisions, or must follow within certain parameters within which that they must be recognized, particularly maybe on areas of domestic violence, issues of sexual, gender-based violence, issues of sexual orientation, areas of where people genuinely fear. Because you see, for you to be able to be found a person in need of protection under Section 96 or Section 97 of the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act, an immigration officer must be able to establish that indeed you have a genuine fear of persecution. You have a genuine fear of persecution. And basically what that means is that if I must be able to issue that there is a risk of fear that if you return to your country of origin, that you will not be able to be safe. What does that mean? You see, basically what that means is that first, when we do an assessment, assessment under Section 96, under the 1951 Convention on Human Rights, had set out certain criteria or certain provisions under which people who are running away, because even you see in Kenya, people who are kept in those refugee camps, immigration officers must be able to do an assessment and see whether, based on that, whether they meet those basic requirements of being deemed refugee claimants. I'm just running that without necessarily using the legal language, the legal interpretation. But what I mean is that in terms, if you follow under Section 96, where immigration, because essentially under section, you may be able to be found a person in need of protection under Section 96 or under Section 97. So Section 97 basically deals with the overflow from, because the issues are in Section 96, which basically assesses on whether the, it lists actually a number of areas that an immigration officer must be able to assess to see whether your claim falls in any of those categories. And then if they find that it falls on that category, then the immigration officer will make a determination based on Section 96. But if not, the immigration officer now may be able to review under Section 97, whereby it says that a person in need of protection in Canada who is removable to their countries of nationality, maybe will be able to face any danger, either substantial on the grounds of their torture. Then on the basis of that, then immigration will be able to view that if any of your claim does not fall under Section 96, which basically sets out what are the claims under that, then an immigration officer has the latitude to be able to consider your claim under Section 97, whereby now what you call the, for example, let me tell you something. For example, if there are certain, because Canada is, I mean, law is very dynamic. It changes from time to time. There are things that may have not been captured when the law was being enacted. So subsequently, those analogous grounds may be addressed under Section 97. Other areas that were not contemplated when Section 97 was enacted, that now Section 96 will cover on those areas that are unique, like your sexual orientation, other unique areas that may have not been captured at the time when this law was enacted. So that's basically what I was saying. First, you're assessed on Section 96, which basically deals on areas of domestic violence, areas of your persecution that are captured there. But subsequently, if you do not fall in, if any of your claim does not fall in none of that, then an immigration officer has the opportunity to be able to assess your claim on Section 97, which is analogous grounds that are relevant, that can still exist, but may have not been contemplated in Section 96.
Thank you. And so I think we are coming to an end. Just to add, counsel, to rule out those areas is religion, race, nationality, member of a particular group, and also political opinion. As counsel has explained, those are the basis. So now I think, unless Peter, you have something to add, or counsel, you have something that you'd like to add, so that we can put it back to the panel, to the moderator, so that they can ask a few questions before we leave.
Yeah. Quickly, you asked me a question about the Atlantic provinces.
Please, yes.
The programs under the Atlantic, the Atlantic, these Atlantic provinces are provinces that are in the Atlantic. And again, I mentioned that these are provinces that mostly a lot of people have not been excited to move to these locations. So like the New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, Newfoundland, and Labrador. So these are provinces, territories that a lot of people have not been able to move there. In fact, my sister now lives in Newfoundland and Labrador. She's a lecturer. She teaches in one of the universities there. She just relocated. And she just, we were discussing when I was signing a document to buy a house. The houses are very cheap because not very many people want to move there. I remember when I went to Nova Scotia, because we still am licensed to practice law in the province of Nova Scotia. So I went there and the houses are very cheap. A lot of people are being encouraged to move there. So guys, when you come, you don't have to be in Ontario, because Ontario, everybody is here, life is expensive. Everybody wants to look, and there's competition in terms of job opportunities. So a lot of people are moving to other provinces. So these provinces are very rigorous and very targeted programs that are intended to be able to encourage people to move to these Atlantic provinces. And when you come, when you make such, Google on those Atlantic provinces, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Newfoundland and Labrador, and Prince Edward. These are other areas that a lot of people are needed. But again, when you come to Canada, you must be very strategic so that you are easily able to have the opportunity to come. If everybody wants to come to Ontario, the province is very competitive because everybody wants to live here. And so explore, in terms even in school, when you are looking for admissions, it's always good to look for admission in other provinces because it's very easy to get admission and it's very easy to get visas to go there. And then after you are there, you can decide to relocate, change your college, you come to Ontario, you already have a study permit. You can still study anywhere. You don't have to study in the college where you went. But then it's important when you come, because you'll have paid money to that college, make sure when you land in Canada and you do not intend to continue that college, there is a timeline within which you can request for the refund of your money that you paid to college. If you fail to request within that period, you lose all your money. So those are some of the things some of the tips that you need to know. Thank you. I hope you have been exhaustive. Only that on the area of the humanitarian and the compassionate, what I wanted to mention that Peter mentioned was that when people submit, humanitarian and compassion is a humanitarian considerations where people who have exhausted their options of staying in Canada that can be given an opportunity to be able to submit their what is the reasons why. We consider issues of establishment, the number of years you've lived in Canada is very critical in terms of your employment, in terms of paying your taxes, in terms of you not having a criminal record, in terms of having the best interest of if you have a child in Canada, you have a medical condition, or in terms of your training, your unique training, that you cannot go to Kenya and find employment in areas that you've trained because they are not opportunities. So those are areas that when we put in submissions, we put submission to be able to articulate those issues and say that your stay here will not prejudice, is more beneficial than you being removed from Canada. And we have been very successful in those areas.
Thank you. And Council Peter, to wind up,
Yeah.
a lot of people think when you come to Canada and seek for asylum, wanasema bwana uende kuwa refugee. Hebu angazia kidogo ndio watu waelewe kwamba hii mambo ya refugee kidogo aswa, is it that bad? Kidogo tu ukija Canada kidogo.
Let me say quickly on behalf of my colleague. We have talked about many routes that people come. When we go to Canaan, we were promised going to Canaan, and there were preachers and all that. So there are many routes that people can go. Others can fly, others can pass through the sea. So one of the options, and I'm telling you, when you come to Canada, particularly for purposes of seeking for protection, Canada is very friendly to immigrants. Canada actually is the only country when you come here that gives you money even before you get your work permit, particularly when you file your refugee claim. One, they give you money to settle down. They give you money to find a house to stay in. They pay for your lawyer because through what you call the legal aid program, they pay for your lawyer. And subsequently, when you go through the process, they give you an open work permit where you can work as you wait for your hearing. And subsequently, when you go through before the hearing, you already have a lot of benefits because you have coverage. You have what you call the federal medical coverage, which you get that can take care of your medical health in terms of any sickness. You also you are assigned what you call a case worker. The case worker will be able to guide you, to support you, to be able to take you. They can even expose you to short-term courses. Like now, the personal support worker program, Canada has made it free. You don't have to pay for. A lot of colleges actually, you don't have to pay because the government has. So if you go through the case worker, they can still be able to help you to gain these meaningful skills. And a lot of personal support workers are needed in all areas because still COVID is not away. So COVID still is around. And of course, there are a lot of homes and nursing homes and shelters that where still case workers or personal support workers are needed. And after that, you go through your hearing. And when you go through your hearing, you get your papers and you become a permanent resident, and then you sponsor your family, and you settle down. So what I'm saying, when this business of people saying that, oh, I'm going to be a refugee, you're even actually a refugee in your own country. Let me tell you, because you are financially a refugee because you cannot live a life, you cannot be able to support yourself, you cannot support your family, and that's why a lot of us are looking. I saw the other time. Who is this? Jalas was posting a message where he was saying that these last week when they closed the US lottery, where they say that 30 million Kenyans have applied for that lottery, and it looks like it's only 20 million are going to remain in Kenya. So what that means is nobody wants to stay in Kenya because life is expensive. Many graduates have finished their education. They have spent a lot of, in fact, most of them want to pay those loans. They cannot afford to do that. They have no employment. They cannot put food on the table, even for themselves. And I know that's why a lot of people don't even want to get married, because they don't want to get any additional responsibilities. So what I'm saying, why I'm trying to encourage and excite the base, is to say that even you don't have to come to Canada. You can go even to the US. You can go even to Australia. You can go to another countries. But we are selling Canada because we have been here. We have seen the benefit. By the way, we work Monday to Friday. The weekend we are free. This is a place where you can raise a family without any stress.
Yeah.
There's no issues of gun violence. Medical coverage here, we only have health cards where we work. When you are a permanent resident, okay, some of us are citizens, but when you're a permanent resident and you're a citizen, we have free medical coverage. I can show you, I don't know where's my wallet, but let me show you something, that I do have my healthcare card, which when I go to the hospital, I don't need to pay nothing. And this is my health card. So this health card, sorry, when I go to the hospital, I need to show this one, and I'm treated. So when you guys are struggling to have NHIF and you want to increase the fees and all that, here we do not have that. So a lot of, even the US does not have the free medical coverage.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of benefits that I hear, which you can access when you come to this country.
Thank you, Council. Let us stop there.
Just one more
Lisa, your site. Somebody is asking you to paste your website again.
Matthew will do that for us.
There's a website running across the screen there on our banner. If you read there, I've posted their website. You can check. I just Googled here. Their website is working. So that's their website there, www.jmlawoffice.ca.
Now,
That's the website.
let me.
Lucas, I just want to add something. So for our listeners, when Ontario or Toronto is not Canada. Canada is quite big, and there are Aboriginals who live in very remote areas, and those remote areas are very good for jobs. I just want to mention 3 territories. That's Northwest Territories, where I personally have lived for and worked for 2 years. The capital is Yellowknife. Also, there's a Yukon, which is Yukon, and also Nunavut. So I just want to say that Canada is big, and there are many other areas where one can get jobs. So I just wanted to add the
Thank you, Peter.
Ontario, Toronto.
Thank you, Peter. We have come to we will be available to answer a few questions, but let me say this also. What Council was saying, in fact, refugees here right now, since COVID-19, they live in a 5-star hotel. Yes, there are some who are in shelters. All these 5-star hotels were turned around to be areas for accommodation for refugees. Of course, when you are leaving your country, you're not coming to the comfort that you're used to. Any migration, when you move from one country to another, you don't expect to get your brother there or your sister to give you the red carpet. There are challenges. It brings you from zero. You start from zero. So if you're moving to another country, you have to be prepared to meet certain challenges, to do certain jobs that you have never done before. But all that gives you leverage to understand how does a cleaner feel when you pass by and throw the garbage. What if you worked as a cleaner? You will understand from that perspective. So Canada is a good country. Of course, when you come here, there are challenges, there is weather and all that, but it takes a while. If people live there, you too can live there. Back to you, Makiadi. We'll be here for a few minutes so that we can answer 1 or 2 questions before we leave.
Yes, Julia, I think you have a question maybe from our audience.
No, I was just looking at this. Someone called Mwana Waingo asking about the son is a doctor or something. And I thought maybe he needs to go to the site, the official site that tells him that what to apply. Or what do you think, Mr. Makori? He's asking, can his son, who is a doctor, work in Canada?
Yes, that's correct. We actually even have 2 doctors that just relocated very recently to Canada, and we do have other doctors that are here. Others have, just like the way we said, doctors actually are needed, so they can apply through the this other skilled program. But what I say that just like any profession, all those regulatory bodies, they have their own structures in terms of assessing and how somebody can get through to start to practice their careers here. So yeah, for sure, nobody's limited. I said even those who are coming to work in the funds, those who are professionals, those who are not professionals, who want to come to school, those who want to come under all different programs, and they are still welcome. It's only that we need to sit down and design programs and be able to look at what are the available options for each applicant or for each person who wants to relocate. And then we may narrow down those areas and be very specific and well targeted in terms of getting the results.
Yeah, and they can send us an email. If they go to our website, they can send us so that we can answer specific questions case by case. This way you can get consultation there. And Makiadi, back to you. Ask us the questions. Julia, if you are not satisfied, we are here. The next council is 7 minutes good.
That's correct. You see, let them ask the questions, because if they meet us, they have to pay. So today, Mutembei TV has what do I say?
We have given the councils, we have given you a forum also to market your law firm.
So that's why we say that when we come, it's just like when somebody finds me in the church and is asking for a legal question, I say, this is acts of kindness. So I do that without asking for a fee. So we are very grateful for that. I was just on a light touch.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So Stone PK, I think maybe you might have a question for the guests today. If you have one, you can take a chance.
Thank you so much. I hope, Makiadi, am I loud and clear?
Yes.
Great,
Stone
great.
PK, why don't I introduce you? This is the one and only revolutionary that we have.
Me say, my brother, I'm going to why are you unanichomea kwa nini mise? Wewe wacha mambo yako. Wacha sasa tuongee business. And then utani introduce baadaye. Let me say thank you so much, Mise. Of course, Makiadi, and then Julia, and then our councils there, Peter, and the other one I can't read the name. Our brother who has done so meticulous presentation. Let me say my name is Stone PK, of course. Fully is Peter Cura, and let me thank Mise so much for having prepared this presentation and bringing his colleagues to really see how we can, kind of enlighten our people back home. For me, this is wonderful. This is great. It is super. Super in the sense that you guys, you understand what is happening back home. Politics aside, why, even if it was not politics, but the challenges are there, and we need to really open up scope for our kids and kids of our kids. We need to open the horizon. And for me, sitting here and listening to what you guys have presented is what I would say is an eye opener. It is breaking the ice, trying to show people what, people have been taking as kind of impossible. People thinking that, going to Canada probably is ni kama kupanda mlima Kilimanjaro, ama the highest mountain on earth. But you've broken it out very easily. And then this also helps us or helps our people to be able to kind of separate the fake things that are moving around. These days, kuna a lot of fake things. But listening from you guys, then getting the real website, because again, the internet has become too crowded with spam and with a lot of, fake websites. And I would say wale wamesikiza, kindly tusambaze kwa Wakenya wenzetu. And you guys now, you as a law firm, which is one of our own, ndugu zangu, you need to do it like it has never happened before. Because we need to salvage those people back home. Our children wamemaliza shule. It is so bad that mtu graduate, may it be first degree, may it be your technical certificate, then you are tamarking for 3, 4, 5 years. All of you, we have gone to school and you know what it means. Graduate leo, unangoja mwaka moja. For me, you know, my time, ukigraduate hivi, if you tamarked for 6, 7 months, hiyo ilikuwa sasa unaanza kurudi nyumbani na unaambia wazazi waanze kuangalia ama kuna kitu ilifanywa. You know what I mean from African point of view. People start thinking ulirogwa, mjomba wako alikataa kukubless, your auntie or something, because you are supposed to graduate. Tamarking was like you walk to 2, 3, 4, 5 offices and then unangoja and you have a job. Today, it is a nightmare even to graduate. I was talking to some of my nephews and they were telling me, Uncle, we feel like we should not graduate. We just want to continue being, you know, student kwa sababu nikikupigia simu unanitumia kakitu. But I'm sure nikigraduate ile siku nitagraduate sasa utanilive on my own. Look at those kind of sentiments. But I'm so happy that Mise and your team, you've really come very clearly, you've enabled. And let me say that when all these Kenyans will write to you, please respond. Musibehave kama some of these other people, you know, when they are presenting, they are good, but then later, wanaanza ignore those kind of things. Please help Kenyans. Help even those who are saying, wale mnasema sijui miaka imepita nini na nini. This world, America, Canada, you need every age. Wanahitaji msaada. I know you guys know that. Let us bring people here. Na nitatumia Kiswahili hapa. To behave, tufanye kama Malatino. Tufanye kama watu wa West Africa. West Africa mtu analeta mpaka nyanyake huku kuja kufanya kazi. Saidieni watu, waje wafanye kazi. Hiyo ndio itasaidia nchi yetu. Remember as of last year, foreign exchange ilikuwa imepita kwa sababu ya pesa zile zinatumwa nyumbani na wale ambao wako huku nchi za nje. Whatever they are doing, ile hela ni hela. Hata kama unafanya kazi yoyote ile. Tafadhali, I thank you so much. You guys are doing a great job. And I wish this is the highest time you are supposed to engage the highest gear. Nyinyi mko kwa hiyo level, mnajua opportunities. Mukipata, help people come over. Wacha watu waje watafute. Kwetu nchi imechomeka. Mwisho, Mise anani introduce vizuri sana. He's my brother. He knows why we are very good brothers. But that will be on another kind of level. But thank you so much, brothers. And I feel this law firm should grow. And you guys, angazie nchi yenu. Okoa nchi yenu. You have a calling. You have a sector given to you by God. Hao watu ambao wanahitaji wafanyakazi, mnajua Wakenya ni wafanyakazi. By the way, hata ukileta mtu ambaye amefika standard 4, atafanya kazi. Kwangu mimi nimetoka mahali senator hakumaliza class 4. Na umesikia nimetumia jina gani? Senator. Na ninamulaki tarehe 12. Ni senator saa hii. Na atafanya kazi. Kwa hivyo tuangalie tu wa Kenya, mtu bora awe anaweza. Then you see how you can maneuver that. Thank you so much. Pole nimechukua muda mrefu. And Mise will continue to talk and discuss together with your team on this line. Wacha ile ingine. Kwa hii line tuko pamoja sana. Asante sana ndugu zangu.
Hawa ni watu wako. Makiadi, there's a question I think that is very nice. Council, can you maybe address the issue of section 216, subsection 1 of the IRPR? Someone is asking how they can overcome that in terms of getting the study permit. I think usually, if you're ready, you can address, because I think that is very common in relation to work permit and study permit.
Yeah, because basically what happens is that, and I did mention in terms of even when you get, for example, I'm just giving this as an example, when you get an admission to come and study, then what must you do to be able to get a study permit, for example? Now, in relation to that is that you must, one of the things that I've always done and that has given me the result that I'm looking for, I've always played the devil's advocate. I've always been on the other side when I put things together. That suppose I am the immigration officer who is assessing this application to be able to make a determination whether or not I must be able to issue a study permit. What are the things that I can look at that can be able to convince me that this person has met the requirement? Now, one of the things that sometimes, for example, in terms of an application is when you do not have a very sound financial statement. Let's say, for example, I'm just giving that and I'll come to the issues of work permit. When you do not have a sound financial statement, and sometimes I know people are giving us bank statements to use to apply to obtain a study permit. So what we need to do is that person needs to swear an affidavit to say that he knows you, because sometimes some people give you a statement, maybe there is no connection in terms of the relationship because it's not your father, it's not your mom, it's not your brother, it's not your, maybe sometimes even not your uncle. So these people must be able to swear an affidavit to be able to say that indeed they're the ones who are going to support you for your study. That will have more credibility in terms of the source of your financial statement. Two, it's also very important, it's very important that other than the bank statement, you need to pay a substantial amount of money towards your study. Because to show that if you are, for the semester, the amount is 9,000, at least the higher you pay, the better, but at least 5,000, 6,000 to show your commitment and your seriousness in terms of pursuing this course. Another area that I find where a lot of people's admissions, study permit application are denied is because particularly in relation to the course that you want to study, which is very different from what maybe you did in your undergrad. Sometimes it's always good to find a course that's more relevant so that even when you are doing a postgraduate program that is relevant. One thing I did not mention, we have had cases where a lot of people have applied for study permit that have been denied, and we have challenged them by what you call a judicial review. Because when you submit an application for your study permit and the study permit is denied, that's not the end of the road. Instead of waiting for another 6 months or resubmitting, we have had very general, because most of the reasons that are given in most of these denials are very generic. Oh, I'm not convinced whether you will go back after your studies, or I'm not convinced about your establishment in Kenya. That either maybe sometimes you are single, you don't have a family, you don't have children. How does an immigration officer confirm whether you come to Canada and go back? We submitted one of the applications that we challenged was for a lady from Nigeria who submitted an application to come, and the study permit was denied. We challenged that in court, and it has now been granted. So in terms of the study permit, you see Canada now has actually, and this is one thing I did not mention, that Canada has opened now that even when you come as a visitor, you can still apply for an open work permit if you do find somebody who's giving you employment. That was not an option before COVID. Now, the issue is basically how do you meet these conditions, and how can you try as much as possible so that these conditions do not prevent you? How do you address them? So it's very important that in every aspect that you deal with, you make sure that all these conditions are addressed in a manner that do not create any, or that not provide an option to the immigration officer who's dealing with this application to deny it.
One more thing I want to add. One more thing. When you're denied the study visa, you have a period of 60 days to within which to appeal, and we are here to help you appeal. So you have 60 days. from Kenya outside this country, you have a period of 60 days.
Yeah, when you apply from outside.
When you apply from outside, so we can help you to appeal that matter, that refusal. Thank you.
Okay, 2 questions, Mr. Makori. One, can you assist someone from the US with your bank statement and they're in Kenya, they're applying for college? I mean, like if I have a relative who wants a bank statement, can I assist them with my bank statement from the US? The second question, did you say that if somebody has been qualified the study permit to Canada, can they apply for an open work permit when they're in Canada?
Thank you, Julia. Julia, a bank statement can be from anywhere. Even Mise can still provide a bank statement for a family member who wants to come and study in Canada. There is no limit from where the bank statement should come from. Immigration will have to do an assessment whether or not this bank statement meets the threshold, which is how much money that this person have. It's in what currency. If it's in a Kenyan, then because of the exchange rate, then you're required to have more. But if the money is from the US, from Australia, from UK, even from Canada, then it will be assessed on the basis of the strength of that money against what you're paying in terms of your school fees. What I already said is that that person who's giving you a bank statement or providing a letter of support must be able to swear at least an affidavit to be able to set out that he will be responsible for your study here in Canada, that he will be able to meet all your financial obligations until you graduate or until you complete your studies and be able to travel back. If they do not provide that and an immigration officer reviews and sees that the money is not sufficient and you've not provided any additional backup in terms of how you're going to continue to sustain yourself, then the immigration officer may be bound to deny that application. 2,
Council, undertaking support.
That's correct. And then what was Julia? What was the next question about the bank statement can be from anywhere? And I think
can a student apply for an open work permit while?
That's correct. Now, Mr. mentioned, but I wanted to expand on what Mr. said. Now, we just got this update that now even those international students now can work even up to 40 hours. They can still work just like normal, because essentially the reason why the hours have been limited for international students is because you came to study, not to work. So if you are allowed to work normally like other employees, then where would you find time to study? So that's why it was limited to 20 hours a week as opposed to 40 hours. But now they have made it open that when you come, you can work 40 hours and you're not limited. But however, still when you finish your study, you can still be able to have an open work permit that is going to allow you, which is called postgraduate open work permit. It's a 3-year open work. But listen, I mentioned 3 years because your study must be at least 2 years. If you study less than 2 years, maybe a year, your work permit will only be maybe 1 year or at most 12 months, 15 months. That will not be enough because you require 1 year work experience. By the time you finish your one year work experience, you only have 5 months left. That will not be sufficient to be able to put things together and submit your application and be invited for an ETA where you are being invited to apply.
Okay, so Mr. Makori, you are saying if someone studies for 2 years, they can get a postgraduate work permit for 3 years.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you for that.
The lesser the period, the lesser the work permit, and the lesser the challenge you have in terms of continuing to stay in Canada and maintain your status.
And Council, Julia is a trained teacher. She is very passionate. I think we need to poach her to Canada. Canada, we need more teachers.
By the way, teachers are being paid very highly in Canada. Teachers are one of those, the teachers, the police, and in fact, let me tell you, even in Canada, even for those who want to join the police force, you can come and join at any age. We have people who are even recruited at the age of 60. So there is no limit. In fact, in Canada, people don't retire. We only have a retirement age of 65, but no, it will be deemed to be a human rights violation for someone to force you to retire. People, even when they are retiring at the age of 65, still work up to the age of 70. There is nobody's going to force you out of work. It's only you. Maybe you wake up in the morning and you feel like you don't want to go to work, and you say, you know what, I've worked for 65 years and I don't want anything more. Maybe you can say that's enough, but there is no age limit, despite the fact that for you to start to benefit and get your pension it's from the age of 65, but you can still continue to work.
And council, police in Canada are very nice. Some people have bad experience with police, with the law enforcement agents. We don't have a lot of cases like that you see in other countries. So people not to be scared with police. We are very nice and polite police.
Yeah,
Even
ours don't fear
some-
us anybody. Ours are very disciplined, and they wear those board cameras and because we are not armed. In the US, because almost everybody is carrying a gun, so the police officer can, at the slightest provocation, you'll be dead. But here in Canada, a lot of us don't carry guns, and there have not been any instances of violence where the police officers are threatened or attacked or killed. So even when the police officers come, we don't have to put our hands on the steering and ask the police officer, now, sir, can you allow me to, go to my dashboard and get this driver's license? We don't. Even sometimes, even before the police arrives, we come out of the car and ask the police, what has happened? So, it's quite a very friendly country. And issues of discrimination, I'm saying that there's no country which does not have, these challenges of discrimination. But I can tell you, Canada, they are very mild. That's why some of us are still lawyers in this country. People are professionals. We have a lot of people working in different sectors and very professional areas, which you cannot get in other countries. If I went to the US, maybe I will not be a lawyer because it's a civil jurisdiction, and we will not even be practicing there. But Canada is very friendly in terms of friendly to our education, friendly to people who look like us, and we can still be able to practice law in this country without any discrimination.
Okay, there's someone asking about express entry. I think you discussed express entry, right?
I did, yes. Under the express entry program, I say there are 3 categories. I say the federal skilled worker program. I said under the federal skilled worker program, we have the skilled worker academic program, and we have the skilled worker trades program, and we have the express, which is Canada Express class. The express class is under in Canada experience, and that's predominantly for international students and those who have studied and gained Canadian experience.
Yeah, I think we have exhausted most of the questions that were posted here. When you guys were doing your presentation, I think you covered most of them. There's a general question like what opportunities are available in Canada, the requirements. I think you covered that. Somebody asked, could one use you guys as reference? I don't know what that means, but they have provided their website here. You can go to the website and click. I'm looking at the website right now. There's a place you can book a consultation, and probably you'll tell them that you saw them on Mutembei TV to get a good discount.
Yeah. And then that's what we wanted to talk. There's a consultation fee. I think there's someone who is asking whether there is a consultation fee. Of course, like you said, Makiadi, they will get a discount, a huge one, and they don't have to pay to Canada. We can provide a way they can pay even in Kenya.
You can try and be nice and charge them like Kenyan rates, if they're in Kenya, unless they are living in the US and in Britain or the others. But I think someone who's living in Kenya, you can imagine charging them Canadian rates. It's going to be a nothing tax.
Of course, they will not pay Canadian.
No, they will not.
Canadian,
today, almost everybody who's in Kenya has a relative in another country. Even Stone has somebody I know somewhere else. So what I'm saying is that we'll definitely be able to consider that. And if they mention that they saw us in Mutembei TV, of course, we'll be able to treat them nice so that they can give good feedback.
And council, we will make sure that they don't pay Canadian dollars. They will pay.
Of course, yes. Yeah, we do understand where people are coming from, so we'll be very, very reasonable in trying to provide the information they need.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think we almost are hitting 2 hours here. It was a very, very lively show. I think most of us.
I have some sites. I posted a site where they can look up the colleges that provide postgraduate diploma.
Yes.
I mean, courses that have postgraduate diploma. I mean, postgraduate work permit. Because I think if I'm not wrong, Makori and Mise, I think not all colleges have courses that have postgraduate work permit. So I found that site. Then what somebody was asking, I have a site that will also help them know what visa you need to apply if you need anything. Like you can go to that site, find out which kind of a visa. Mr. Makori has talked about those visas. You can go to that site and post in. I think you will see what visa you need to do what. I mean, and most importantly, I want to appreciate Miss and Mr. Makori. One critical thing I've noticed, you've talked about temporary work permits. That one can work for any Kenyan. I think can work if and only if they find a job. So there's no harm in contacting Mise and his law firm. If they can help you, I think sometimes Makiadi, in Kenya, we look at how much money we are going to spend. Like if you tell someone, people who applied for green card, and then they realize that they got to pay for the application fee, for the medical fee, they're like, I siwezi lipa hiyo pesa yote. But you ask yourself how much your sacrifice is to gain what. So you please consult Mise and Mr. Makori and their law firm. I think if they're gonna help you, place you, hata kama kwa mkulima fulani, ushike hilo tractor lake for a few months or for 1 year, your life and the life of your children will never be the same again. That's my take.
Okay.
Is Calvin is very consistent, wanting to know more about the police. Calvin, you can go into Toronto Police or Peel Region Police. You can get more information on their website. So Toronto Police or Peel Region Police.
Yeah, I think there are very specific questions from our viewers here, but I do not want us to go that way because we'll take the whole night here. I wanted us at least to organize another session. This was just like a introductory session. This is the first time we're doing this show, and we appreciate Mise and your team, Joshua and Peter, for showing up and the Kenyan spirit. Sisi wote tunajua ile kitu inaendelea kwa nchi yetu, and we know people are suffering. They would have appreciated if watapata opportunities za kuenda nje pengine na kutafuta. We know there are countries that are not very friendly to Kenyans. We all can see these stories on the news every day. And so a country like Canada, like you've heard from our panelists today, is a very friendly country to Kenyans, and especially people who look like us. Nikisema look like us, ujue namaanisha nini. Kwa hivyo nita organize another session. I think, Julia, we will organize another session whereby at least we can dive into the specifics, probably by jobs, maybe medical field or whatever. Unasikia kuna watu wanataka kuwa polisi hapa, na maybe sasa hapo ndio tutakuwa na specific information, na probably by doing that we'll have to alert our panelists mapema ndio tuwatumie question waweze kufanya research pia wakikuja kwa show.
Yeah, we'll send them questions like, Mr. Next time you come, I would like you just to come and tell somebody who doesn't know how to figure out aende wapi.
Yeah.
Umsaidie huyo mtu whether ako trained ama trained, apate some valid travel documents, aingie ndege,
Exactly.
ajipate, not illegally, not tourist yenye he has to hide, no, something that will land them there legally and to start off life. Because what happens, I realize, Mr. Makiadi, we look at things, tunaanzia kupanda mti juu badala ya kupanda mti kutoka chini. I think most of the people who are in the diaspora did not do that. I think they didn't go straight even to their careers or to their professions. I think somewhere they had to do something about it. So, Miss, I really appreciate that I've also learned a lot, gotten a lot of information. I mean, I have learned so much. So maybe time we can do something more than that.
Yeah, I just want to emphasize here that as Julia said, when you go outside, you look at where you're coming from and look at where you're going. If the opportunities outside there are better than the ones you've left at home, then probably you should be there. So like we said here, we will try as much as possible to get you the information that you need. Na mise ninataka siku moja ukuje utuambie ule mtu ambaye ako pale nyumbani hana chochote, hana hata hela ya kujiprosesia visa and everything. How can you help that person? Because most of the people that are having trouble coming to countries like Canada are the people who would have decided to be there but they cannot do anything for themselves because of the finances. Probably wale wanaitangwa cool rich kids huwa wanalipiwa kwenda shule and then they find their way out there, but we want also kufikia ule mwananchi wa kawaida pale chini.
Makiadi,
Yes, please.
it's midnight midnight here and my colleagues are in the office. If you don't mind, if we can just recuse them so that they can get home. But we want to thank you for giving us this opportunity to come here and share with people. Our desire in our office is to help people realize their dreams. And if we can be part of the people that will help them to realize their dreams, we will be very happy to be involved. You have our website, www.jmlawoffice.ca. Contact us there, and we will again organize and come here when you need us. For now, if we ask that, I ask my colleagues to maybe say the last few remarks, and then you let us go.
Yeah, sure. Joshua, karibu.
Okay. I really want to thank you, Mutembei TV, for giving us this opportunity to talk about ourselves and what we do in Canada. And now you know that we are, apart from Miguna, there are other lawyers in this country who can help Kenyans to find their dreams, come true in this country. Asanteni sana.
Thank you so much. Also, on behalf of JM Law Professional Corporation, we are so grateful for this opportunity that you've accorded us, Wanarichi, Makiadi, Julia, and Stone, and those that are behind this great organization. We sincerely want to thank you. We have not had much of the opportunity to speak to our Kenyan people, particularly with respect to the opportunities that are available in this country. We also want to thank the viewers, those that we cannot see. I know there are many that have seen us and we have not seen them, those who have sent their messages, those who have listened to us. I did mention from the beginning that this is just scratching the surface. We do have a lot of information that we want to share with our people. Knowledge is power. And, those without this knowledge, you perish for lack of knowledge. So information will help you. Lastly, all of us made a decision either to start Mutembei TV or to come to Canada or to go to school or to do something. It must start from somewhere. And tonight we have laid down that opportunity. We have laid down that foundation for you to be able to make a decision. And we're here to guide you. We're here to support you and give you. Go to www.jmlawoffice.ca and book your consultation. We'll reach out immediately to you, provide all the details that we can reach you, and then we can discuss with you. So thank you so much. We have now to leave. As Mr. said, this is actually past midnight. I know you guys there is in the morning. Thank you. We will be glad to again get an opportunity to speak to our people. I was a bit disappointed. I am Mr. knows that I'm an Asmio guy, but I was disappointed, and I almost didn't want to help any Kenyan. But I say that you know what, we are still Kenyans despite how we vote, despite what decisions we make. As me, I participated in voting here. I don't know how many. This is one of my diaspora constituents.
You're out of order. Maybe
I
we should wait you another day.
So thank you so much. Those are just the parting remarks, but I want to thank you so much. And next time, if there's an opportunity, we'll be more than willing to participate. Have a good morning.
All right, we'll allow the council to drop, but sisi tutafunga show baadaye. So thank you so much, Makori. We'll talk to you in in the near future. Asanteni sana. And for the rest of the panelists, Mise wewe najua sasa umetufanyia kazi mzuri leo. Kama kungekuwa na soda karibu ningepitisha nikupatia hapo, lakini uko mbali. So I want to appreciate our viewers. Wale wote ambao mlikuwa na maswali ambao pengine hukupata jibu ambalo ulikuwa unataka, tutarudisha hawa wageni siku nyingine. Pengine haukujibiwa vile ulikuwa unataka. We were just trying to see how this one goes. It is an introduction session, so we'll have an opportunity to dive deeper. Kama wewe unataka kuenda kusoma, tutapata nafasi ya kuleta information kuhusu masomo. Kama unataka kwenda kufanya kazi, umesikia imesemekana kuna temporary work permit, wewe unatafuta tu kazi pale na unaenda kufanya kazi huko as a temporary employee. So there are so many opportunities. I think we'll have another session as they said. Na Ndusha nasema tuweke link kidogo, weka link kidogo. Watu wanataka kupiga siasa, Julia, sisi tunataka kwenda kulala. Ni link ya nini hii?
I don't know which link she wants, because I think what today we should pay attention is the many methods that Mise and the group have talked to us, and they have talked about express entry that is very broad. But yenye nimecapture Makiadi na Mise na Stone is your temporary work permit that helps you to go to get permanent residence, and the student permit that helps you also get permanent residence. That is if you get postgraduate work permit. So I think that is what we should pay attention to the Makiadi. I don't know whether we should pay attention to the others.
Yeah, sometimes I think, unajua, wacha niongee na Kiswahili kwa sababu hii kitu ni recorded. Wakati mwingine if you listen to akina Mise wakiongea, sometimes they don't tell you straight, lakini wacha niseme wewe tumia ujanja yako kufika huko. Hivyo ndio huwa tunasema, tumia ujanja wako kufika huko. Ukishafika hiyo mambo ingine itaundiwa mbele. So that's
hata kama utasema ulifukuzwa na Mungiki, unajua Mise amesema hapa you need to have reported to the police, ukaenda kwa polisi Mombasa na wengine Nairobi. Sasa ukifika huko naambia Mise mimi nafukuzwa na Mungiki, so utajipata tu huko. If you can take your child to school, or you can take yourself to school and pay, I think, the first term and have some little cash, have Mise write your bank statement. I mean, and his bank statement is accepted. You, at the end of the day, you may get scholarships. Mise Makiadi, I know people who came to the US. I know someone, let me say this. I know someone who only paid the first semester's fee for his master's degree in the US. And
mbona mnazungumza na Kiingereza hiyo vitu? Siweke Kiswahili, Julia.
Kiswahili ni ngumu.
Unajua weka tu changanya.
Huyo jamaa akilipatiwa bank statement na some certain member of parliament kule kwao. Alifika hapa na aliniambia after semester 1 hakuwa na pesa. Akaenda kwa hiyo university akawaambia hana ndururu, hana hata pesa ya chakula. He told them, I literally have nothing. Me and you do what you want to do with me. And the international students, I mean, Councillor and Brabra, I think they have a department, got so concerned that how can someone be going hungry in the US because he's a foreigner? Wakamtafutia scholarships. The guy got through his master's degree, and because he did so well, he got a scholarship to do his PhD in John Hopkins University. The guy now is an American citizen. Huyo jamaa akiwa kule kwao, he comes from Rift Valley. Ungemwambia, you see, if you are in his shoes, akwambie I only have a few thousands. Kenya alikuwa ameuza plot, amepewa na baba yake. Wewe, I'm talking about a village boy who went to a village primary school barefooted, went to some secondary school and managed to go to, I think, Kenyatta University. Got his first degree those days. Posted to teach in a village school somewhere in Rift Valley, and a village teacher. And he has this big dream and decides, mimi naenda kusoma US. Aka apply some college. He was admitted. But fee, he didn't have the fee. He didn't have the fee. So he sold some plot that he was given by the father. That was the only fee PK alikuwa nayo. Akalipa semester ya kwanza, hakuwa na bank statement. Aliniambia alinyimwa visa mara 2, mara 3 ndio alipatiwa hiyo visa. So people come from far. So you people, I think most of the Kenyans you see abroad, I don't think they are children of the members of parliament, of the ministers, or the members of. I mean, they are people wameanzia from a very low point, and they have made it because they were determined and they were courageous. So I guess Makiadi, hiyo story watu watilie mkazo, waliseme hawana pesa. Let them start somewhere, right? PK and
Yeah.
Makiadi. Mhm.
Yeah, mi ninataka kusema namna hii tukimalizia. I think information kama hii, na tunasema hapa information kama hii yenye tumepata leo, watu ulipa, unachajiwa kule nje ndio uweze kupewa. And so if you get an opportunity like this, hawa wapendwa wamekuwa hapa, wamekuja na wakakuambia, na hiyo visa moja ambayo Julia ameitaja hapa, hiyo temporary work permit, hiyo ni kitu ambayo hata hahitaji masomo kulingana na vile wamesema, hahitaji certification, kwa sababu zile zingine zote wameongea juu yake ziko na ratiba ya vitu ambavyo vitaenda kuangaliwa. Lakini ukiweza kupata namna ya kupata nafasi kama hii ambayo wamesema, we unakuja tu, unaenda, bora ufike. Unajua kitu ngumu kabisa ni kufika. Na ile ujanja yote umefunzwa huko Kenya, kusurvive. Kama umesurvive Kenya, hakuna mahali pengine huwezi survive. So watu wanasema ati maisha Canada ni ngumu, sijui. We kuja, wale watu wanaishi huko pia ni watoto wa watu kama wewe. Utatoboa, ufike ground. Unasemanga fika ground kwanza uone vile kunakaa. So we will bring these gentlemen again here, and probably hiyo wakati sasa wata address vitu kama masomo. Specifically they can dive into what kind of education, what offers are there, the school fees. Kuna watu walikuwa wanataka kujua pia masomo ni bei yake ni kiasi gani. Kwa hivyo tutakuja, at least wakina Misora tutafutia sample ya hizi community colleges zenye wametuletea hapa, watuambie this is how much you'll be spending, are you allowed to work, kama ni kazi unataka kufanya ambayo itakusupport, kuja na pesa fulani, alafu ukishalipa school fees unaweza tafuta kazi baadaye, uone kama utapata kazi na ujisaidie pia kusoma. Watu hufanya kazi na kusoma, Julia. Watu hufanya kazi na kusoma.
Yes, and the good thing with I think Canada is different from the US. I'm not sure in the US you could be studying and working full time, but I'm seeing that according to what Mr. Makori has said, that you can apply for an open work permit if you're a student in Canada. So it means that is different from the US. Another thing, kuna mtu anasema hapa maisha Canada ni ngumu. Watu wanasema maisha Canada, you people telling you that maisha Canada ni ngumu. Why are they still in Canada? Because the person saying this, I think, is in Canada. Why? But anafanya nini huko serudi home? It means these people, that is not true. Another thing, nimeona Makiadi, this Canada, they have a good health insurance cover. I don't think Americans have that. And if they have, it's not as good as a Canadian one. That's how I see it.
Stone PK, sijui ni Mike ime. Stone.
Yeah. Yes, Makiadi.
Nimeona ni kama ulikuwa unataka kusema kitu.
Nilikuwa nataka kusupport Julia pale. Ile okay, kwanza nilimesema tujaribu kuongea vitu vingine na Kiswahili, na nina support Julia kwa sababu Wakenya tunataka sasa Wakenya tumekuwa na kufanya mambo ati inaitwa nini kwa Kiswahili? Yaani ukimuuliza kila mtu, mazee wewe, mimi nataka kuanzisha biashara ya matatu. Jamaa na matatu 4. The first thing anakuambia ni bro, hiyo achana nayo bwana. Ni ngumu sana. Na ukikaa baada ya miezi 3 unaona imeingia, ameweka ingine. Kama inaitwa Stone PK, unaona Stone PK 1, Stone PK 2. Na yeye anakuambia hii kazi bwana, matatu ni shida, achana nayo bro. Wakenya tuna hiyo kasumba. The same thing ukiuliza mtu, mazee US kukwaje? Unasikia wa bro, weka tu hapo home. Mazee challenges zile ziko US ni deadly. US ni mabills. My brothers and sisters, ni wapi bills zilipwagi? Ukweli wa mambo, Richi na Julie na nani yuko pale na Mise, ni wapi bills zilipwagi? Canada, mazee Canada ile baridi iko huko bwana, na saa hizo Mise ndio huyo hata anakubalia t-shirt. Sasa unaambiwa ati wewe huwezi survive. Sasa Wakenya tujaribu, na ninafurahi sana vile Mise amenini. Kwanza amekuwa best yangu saa hii kwa sababu politically nilikuwa nimemweka pahali ingine, lakini ameniwin kidogo kwa sababu ya kuja kuleta hii. Wakenya sasa tugeuke tuwe kama wale manini wengine, wananchi wengine kama hawa ma West Africa. West Africa, Richi na Julie, nilinotice because niliwaku huko karibu miaka 7. Jamaa hata anatoa passport yako Richi, mimi natoa passport yangu, natoa picha na picha ya Richi na kupatia. Bora nikishavuka pande ile na kutumia passport yangu, mimi nabaki bila. Unaenda huko unatoa picha huko River Road yao, unaingiza yako, unavuka pande hii. Yani wana risk that much. Why? Because they are patriotic to their citizens. Wakenya sisi kazi yetu ni kucomplicate mambo. Sorry to say that. Mtu ni Mkenya ameishi US ama Canada miaka 5, miaka 6. Yeye anataka kupatia story ya vile yeye alikuja, vile alitaabika, na ajui kila mtu, ile kama ile wimbo iliimbwa na nani, ile ilisema kila mtoto anazaliwa na sahani yake. Wewe ulichukua miaka 4 whatever, ama ulipitia shida fulani. Si ujaribu juu wewe uliingia, si wewe daraja yangu. You know? Juu wewe sasa ulipitia ukaikuwa exposed, ukajua hapa ulijaribu hivi ukakulwa $1,000, ukafanya hivi ukakulwa $50, lakini ulierevuka juu ulikoniwa. Si unisaidie mimi nisikoniwe na nisaidie ule mwingine. Alafu tuwe wengi. Manake tukiwa wengi hivi ndio tunaweza kusaidiana. So I would want, and I love this program umefanya leo Julie na Makiadi, because when we speak and tell people and bring such kama kina Joshua hao, and then tunarevusha wa Kenya, we are demystifying some of these very retrogressive perceptions which are created by people. Watu wameingia huku na njia mingi. Richi umesema vizuri sana. We jaribu tu njia yoyote ile, we land huko. Tumia ujanja yoyote. Sema we ni Kipchoge Keino, sema ulikuwa sister yake ama mama yake ama ni brother yake, whatever, we ni tumia ujanja yote, we land alafu tafuta mise. Ama land unaambia Richi mazeni nimeshatoboa, niko mahali panaitwa New Jersey lakini niko kwa street na nililand saa 8, sijui nitadu. Unaambia mtu saa zile umeland. Then the rest of course will be history. Ndugu zangu, let's simplify things. For me, my dad used to, and is my mentor up to today, used to tell me there is nothing elephant. Alikuwa ananionyesha magorofa ya Nairobi hiyo yote, ananiambia hizo nyumba zote huko ndani, ofisi hizo zote ukiingia, hautakuta simba, utakuta binadamu. So never fear to knock any door. Wakenya tusaidiane, vuruta wengine over, bring them over. In fact, your legacy will be, especially mtu kama Mise ambaye ana hiyo palm, your legacy will be every day you look at your record, how many Kenyans, niongee na Kiswahili, Wakenya wangapi Mise na his law firm amesaidia kwa mwezi moja, kwa mwaka moja, kuja tu bora walandi huku hii nchi. These are nchi za plenty. Alafu tuenda tu open up kwa Wakenya, tuambiaje, by the way, huku ndio nimenotice kazi ni kazi. Hiyo huku ama hizi nchi za majuu ndio nimenotice kila job ni job. Mise amepeana example mzuri. Huko kwetu ati sweeper, unafikiria huyo hata unapitaga hivyo, unamwangalia na jicho mbaya, hata unataka kutema mate. Ukija huku ndio unajua ujui. Yes, unajua huyo jamaa anapeleka do home almost equivalent to what you are earning. Anapeleka dozi na maana amesweep hizo 8 hours. Wewe unatupa katakataka hapo, yeye anatoa, anaweka pale kanatakikana, anatoa hiyo garbage mahali inatakikana ikue, anaingiza masaa yake 8 na hela yake imeingia bro. Alafu unasikia anapandisha plot Dandora lakini unamuita sweeper. So can we help our Kenyans? Mise, please tufungulia hawa watu, na hizi program tufanye na Kiswahili. Tukiwachanua tufanye na Kiswahili, watafunga milango, wanasikiza. Wakisikia iko hivi, kama vile Nigeria, unajua wanakuwa monitored 24/7, ndio walijulikana mambo yao. That's why unaonanga kila kitu yao inakuwa scrutinized. Ukitoa passport wewe ni Nigeria, unaona wewe Mkenya unapita, Nigeria anabaki hapo kama 2 hours anaangaliwa juu chini aonekane ama ni kweli. Wakenya bado tuna bahati. Yeah, lakini sasa sisi naye manake tumechanuka sasa, tuna watu kama akina Mise na wale wengine, tueneze hii gospel and let's bring afadhali tulete watu wengi huku as much as possible, ndio, because sisi tumeland, we are here. Hakuna uwezi kaa hapa idle, which is true. Tuseme ukweli tu, tuache kuambiana watu ati maisha ni ngumu. Ni wapi maisha si ngumu? Afadhali US, hata afadhali nifanye kazi nipate $100 nilipe bills za 80 nibakishe 20 na maisha inaendelea, that's okay. Ama nipate 100 nispendi 100 na ninaishi na nimekula na nimelala, that's good life. Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah, we hope, PK, by the end of these conversations that we are having, we'll see changes. I shared with Makiadi, I shared with you people that I spoke about teaching in South Carolina. I think I can count the team of more than, they could be going to over 50 teachers who have been hired, and some are relocating now. So, I mean, until I lost track of those teachers because they kept texting me, I lost track of how many they even formed a huge group of around 300 teachers. They're working on their visas now. I lost track of those teachers because there were so many, and they were all hired here and they're still hiring them. So someone shared with me that opportunity some years back, and I took the opportunity. And when I shared with people, they took the opportunity. These are things that you don't hear on the internet. You don't hear being advertised on TV or on the internet. But just because someone has that experience, they share with you, and you learn from such a show or from another platform. I mean, your life can never be the same again. So Kenyans who are watching, it's not a waste of time, but I would like to say that information is power, and we are not saying that we are. I always say I don't think I am wealthy, and I'm not hoping to be called that wealthy woman, but I can say that I think I am comfortable, and I don't think I'm struggling as much as I used to do in Kenya, and that I can meet my basic needs. So I think if you also think positively about what you are saying, mseme ati tunakuja kufanya chenye Mise alikuwa anasema juzi, ati tunakujanga hapa ng'ambo sijui kuosha nani wapi. Even if unaoshanga watu wherever, and you meet your daily needs, people start from somewhere. You don't have to start as a high school teacher. But I'm saying this, these countries, the West, have structures that make the life of their people more comfortable and more tolerable. For example, they have put infrastructure like water, like power, roads and all that, schools, access to equitable education for your children, those kind of the things that you may not find in Kenya. Now, hata kama East West, home is best, kuna vile unaweza zeeka na ukufe na shida mingi ukisema tu home is best. Afadhali ukue mahali penye utasaidia wenye wako home, wenye wanasema home is best. At least you can feed them in times of when they don't have money for food. Like in the times of COVID, Stone PK, I think there was a huge population in Kenya that was depending on the diaspora because their jobs were closed. They could not go to work. Their businesses were down. So I think Kenyans, this was a good opportunity. Think about what PK is telling you. Think seriously about what Mise and his and our other guests shared with us tonight. And I think we'll be talking about more sharing other countries. Makedi is telling me that we shall be looking at Britain, shall be looking at Australia, we may look at New Zealand. And when I get some time, I'll come back and talk about teaching in the US, teaching opportunities in the US, so that you can tell the people that you know are teachers and can come and work in the US. Makedi also find somebody who can tell us about medical practitioners in the US. You gave me a post some time back, and I think we shared here, or some farm that was going to recruit nurses in Kenya. So those kind of opportunities only come once in a lifetime. When you find them, please take them. So this was wonderful. I think sijui kama tutafunga ama Makiani unataka aje.
Kuna mtu anaitwa Geoffrey Ruto anasema anyone in this forum who has a financial problem and has the paperwork to travel or study abroad, please ask for help, we will assist. Kwa hivyo kuna watu kama kina Geoffrey Ruto hapa tunapambananga na UDA na ODM, lakini people are here, you can always ask. Kama Misi anaweza kupatia bank statement, hiyo ni kitu unaweza saidiwa. Kwa hivyo usiogope kujaribu, na pia kama uko na information yoyote. Tumeongea leo juu ya Canada, hatutaki kufungia watu wa UK, tunajua tuko na watu mpaka Spain. Kama kuna mtu ambaye anataka kupeana information, tafadhali get in touch na sisi tutaweza kuprepare show kama hii yenye tumekuwa nayo leo, ndio uweze kuja kuongea na watu. Brian Richard, ulisema utakuja kuongea juu ya UK, sijui uko tayari siku gani? Tafadhali.
Yeah, and Brian Richard, help us find somebody. There are lots of visas Makiadi in the study.